I'm Shay Russell for mining.com.au. And joining me today is CEO of Power Nickel, Terry Lynch. Terry, how are you today?
Doing great. Yeah, it's been a interesting day, and I'm up in the lovely village of Chibougamau, Quebec.
I'm going to say this. I want to see if I can get it right the second time. Chibougamau, Quebec.
That's
I
it.
get it. Listen, Terry, it's a late hour where you are right now, but more importantly, you're currently doing your tour of duty through Power Nickel's projects. I believe you've been on the road now for a solid few weeks. Tell me, what are you checking out on site at the moment?
On site, we were up. We're about to launch our summer drill program next week, so we're up dealing with that, and then we're up meeting with our partner, the First Nations, the James Bay Cree, and had a good meeting with them, 2 meetings with them, and just going through what we're doing. So it's always good to communicate what your objectives are and how we can all work together. It's great value for the community and for our shareholders.
Now, I just want to touch on what you're doing with NISK. A couple of weeks ago, some excellent high-grade results have come out of that, your most recent drill program. Talk me through some of these awesome numbers.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. We had a initial discovery about a year ago, about almost 8 meters of what would be effectively 1 ounce platinum group metals, which is 1.5% copper and some gold. And then we couldn't get back in until January because it was a winter target. It's now a year round, but we hadn't been prepared, when we made the discovery. And then we started drilling in January, drilled 16 holes, 15 of the 16 hit, and we reeled off some stunners, really. That'd be no other way to put it. Like 14 meters of almost 14% nickel EQ, 11 meters of 11%, 15 meters of 9.5%. I mean, these are just unheard of numbers, really, frankly, and it's really transformed the Power Nickel story from a nickel story, a very good nickel story, to a much more of a polymetallic story. And but polymetallic mines are the world's most desirable and the world's most valuable. So it's a super exciting switch for us, and that's really what's captivated the market and why our stock is on the move.
Yes, also too, you've just for the Australians listening, we're not really familiar with winter targets. So how have you transformed your program from summer-only drill targets to year-round drill targets?
Yeah, so what it means is it typically in a winter target, you're dealing in a marshy area, so it's fine to drill when it's frozen, and then when it's when it's not frozen, and it can present some challenges. But if you know that it's coming when it's frozen, you can build platforms that are workable year round, and you can drill for them. So it just took a little advanced planning. We did, obviously we were up there looking for nickel and found this bloody great copper gold PGM hole, and happily so, I might add. But and so we didn't know it was going to happen, and that's why we weren't prepared.
Now, I might be dragged over the hot coals for the next phrase that I use, but I believe you've been able to bring on an exquisite geologist to what Power Nickel's doing, all by dangling some sexy rocks in front of him. Tell me, how did you win over Dr. Steve Beresford?
Yeah, my son actually he watched this great video that Dr. Beresford did, and he's truly a gifted geoscientist, really. And he was chief geologist at First Quantum, and then at MMG, and then chief geoscientist at IGO. So had a lot of success. And so his specialty is polymetallic discoveries. He's on the hunt for the next giant one. So when I watched this video, my son had sent me. He said, "Dad," he says, "I think they're talking about NISK, but of course they don't know." So I watched the video and I thought, wow, it does seem like they're talking about our project. So I reached out, through LinkedIn, and I usually, honestly, I've never really gotten great value out of LinkedIn. So I've now take all the criticism of LinkedIn back, because it did get me through to Dr. Beresford. I sent him some assays on our nickel discovery and also the polymetallic one. And he said, "Wow, that's interesting." He said, "Yeah, you may have something there." So, we chatted, and he said, "Well, what's the follow-up?" And I said, "That's a winter program. I can't get to it till January." So he said, "Well, let's stay in touch and let's see what happens in January." So January, we started hitting it. And when you hit grades like we hit, where you have like sections which are 32% copper, it's like so crazy that you can't, it's like a jewelry box. So when you're hitting it that, wow, I've hit the jackpot here. So so I reached out to him. I said, "Steve, like we're hitting it like crazy." And he said, "Well, send me the assays." So we did, and so then he said, "Wow, you've got one." So we got on the the Zoom call, and I had my VP of exploration give him a technical presentation, went through it, and the interesting part was, that we and again, I did not know this guy from Adam, but he's a very nice guy, and it's just passionate about his about finding the next giant deposit. And I said, look, I don't really have an analogy for you. It's not like Voisey's Bay because it's got obviously the gold and silver and he said, yeah, I get that, and the copper, and he said it's not like this gold project because it's got all the other stuff, the PGMs and the nickel. And he said, yeah. And he said, but I said, I got the analogy for you. And I said, oh, what is it? And he said, Norilsk. So I'm like, smiling from ear to ear because Norilsk is literally the world's biggest, most valuable mine, the only $1 trillion mine in the history of the world. So, he said, look, I'm not saying you got the next Norilsk, he said, but he said, if you did, it would start out like this. All explorers like us are living for is a chance to find the next big one, right? And if it became 10% of Norilsk, every shareholder of mine would be more than happy, So, we're not, so I'm not, saying, we're going to be that big. But the neat part is we stepped out a full 5.5 kilometers from our nickel deposit, which is a very good nickel deposit. We've just posted our inaugural 43101 in December, 7.1 million tons, 1.13% nickel EQ, and it's growing. It's got more than that now, and we it's associated with ultramafic rock, and the other ultramafics in Canada that had high grade like that were Lynn Lake at 22 million tons, Voisey's Bay at 140. We always thought it would be in between, which would be a very big nickel discovery, very commercial, certainly be super valuable. But now we stepped out 5.5 kilometers to the north east because we saw this ultramafic expression at the surface, and we thought maybe we'll hit more nickel up there, and who knows. So we drilled down, and then we hit this massive copper, PGM, gold, silver zone, and what he thinks, his theory is that, look, most likely, best chances are that this whole thing is connected subsurface. He said the second most likely scenario is that somewhere between NISK Main, and we call this the line zone, the line discovery, somewhere between NISK and the line zone, there's another nickel sulfide project that's produced this. And the third thing is that you've got this crazy, rich, super, copper, PGM, gold, silver project, zone that, and there's probably going to be multiples of them. So there's almost not a bad scenario there, So it's pretty intriguing. And he's coming up next week. He's in town, and he's done a bunch of work in our data room already. And what he adds to us is there's a guy who spent several $100 million exploring deposits like this. So they learn tricks of the trade, things that work in this type of exploration. And we've got obviously a competent team. We've done very well to find the thing, but finding, exploring, these beasts properly, you need some expertise. Steve's got it, and we're happy that he's joined the fray and joined the crazy Canadians in their quest for glory. So we'll see how it goes.
I'm going to use that next time we speak. Listen, Terry, it sounds like Power Nickel is working on an extremely rare project. These kind of projects don't come along every day. Tell me, what sort of news flow can investors expect to hear next? Because I imagine many people are going to be on the edge of their seats now.
Yeah, so we've got some more assay results coming out, and we expect another. We've had a pretty good track record of predicting the assay results. We on our PowerPoint on our site, we've got 6 blocks of rocks that we show, and 5 of the 6 have been produced already, and they had stellar results. So the 6 is, I'm guessing, likely to deliver, as promised. And then we've been working with a company called CVMR, and they're a big nickel refinery company. They've got 18 refineries around the world. There's 3 ways to make nickel. You can smelt it, you can use hydrometallurgy, or you can use chemical metal vapor process. That's their process. It's been around for 30 years. It's the most environmentally friendly. No external air, no external water, and it produces not only nickel anodes and stuff like that, but also nickel powders and nano powders, which is the ultimate delivery vehicle for electric vehicles. So super interesting group. They're doing a feasibility study on NISK right now. The first report of that feasibility study will be out in the next week or so. So that'll be exciting. We're expecting to get our recoveries right now are about 70%. We think that's going to move to 90% with this. So it really substantially enhances our economics. So we've got a lot of great stuff happening. And then, of course, we're starting to drill next week and just rinse and repeat. We're going to be just rocking the news here for the next while with lots of great drill results, we think.
Another great phrase, rocking the news. Listen, Terry, this has been an awesome chat, and I cannot wait to hear more rocking the news coming out of Power Nickel. Thanks so much for being here.
All right. Have a great day. Cheers for now.